Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday. Happy June 9th. And welcome to another segment of Divine Femininity United. I am your girl, Dr. Bianca, Miss B. Lee. And we are here to read another chapter in our phenomenal collective book that we are reading together. Power versus Force, the hidden determinants of human behavior. This book, you all, oh my goodness. The chapters are very, very short but very powerful, very transformative, very enlightening, very self-reflecting. I mean, they really, 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 really cause us to really take a deeper look inside of our own being, how we show up in these topics or with these subject matters, and just within our own levels of consciousness. Yes, he's talking about the broad spectrum and different arenas and things like that. Like today, we're going to be going over social powers and the human spirit, which is chapter 13. And last week we talked about power in sports. So he's talking about general things, general topics, but how we see them, how we show up in them, how we perceive them, based upon where we are in our own levels of consciousness. And this is really, really, really informative, but it's really self-reflective and expanding if we apply what we're learning. Okay, I hope you are, because I most certainly am. I really, really am. We are airing live via Clubhouse, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter. And at any point, if you're listening directly or indirectly, in passing or whatever the case, if you're listening and you have something and we share something that resonates with you and you have something to share and add to the conversation, please don't hesitate to do so. That is what we are here for. We are a collective. Okay, there is no I, just because I'm doctor, it doesn't matter. I don't that's not, those things are not important to me. Those are roles that I've acquired, right? That's a journey that I've taken, but it doesn't make me any greater, any higher than you. If you have something to add to the conversation, add to the conversation, please and thank you, because you may be sharing something that someone else, us all, need to hear. Okay. Alrighty, so feel free in the chat, in the inbox, whatever you want to do, wherever you want to communicate, please feel free to do so. Also, I would love, 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 and I would greatly appreciate it if you would share to anybody who you think would benefit from this, which is everybody, but everybody's not prepared and ready to have these kind of conversations, or even to, leave where they are. And, with respect to them, we don't want to change anybody. We want to leave them exactly where they desire to be. We can hope for the best for them, as we would hope for the best for ourselves and everybody. But, we can't change anyone, and we can't make anyone do anything that they are not willing to do. So those who are willing to hear, if you know someone that would be beneficial, that would be a benefit to this conversation, feel free to share. Okay. Thank you so very much. So we're going to go in without further ado into our chapter 13. It is entitled Social Power and the Human Spirit. Here we go. When we cheer the spirit of the true athlete, what we applaud is a demonstration of all of the significances the word spirit entails for us, which is courage, tenacity, commitment, alignment with principle, demonstration of excellence, honor, respect, and humility. To inspire implies filling with spirit. Dispirited means dejected, hopeless, defeated. But what exactly does the term spirit signify? The collective totality of human experience can be comprehended in phrases such as team spirit, or when we exhort people to get in the spirit. That spirit is a highly pragmatic factor, which can determine the difference between victory and defeat. It's well known by military commanders, coaches, and CEOs. An employee or other group member who doesn't enter into the spirit of the group enterprise soon finds himself without a job or group. So it's clear that spirit refers to an unseen essence, which never changes, even though its expression varies from one situation to another. This essence is vital. When we lose our spirit, we die. We expire from lack of that which inspires. Clinically speaking, then, we can say that spirit equates with life. The energy of life itself can be termed spirit. Spirit is the aliveness that accompanies and is an expression of alignment with life energy. The power of high energy attractor patterns is anabolic, sustaining life. Their opposites are catabolic, eventually leading to death. True power equals life equals spirit, whereas force equals weakness equals death. When an individual has lost or lacks those qualities we term spiritual, he comes devoid of humanity, love, and self respect. He may even become selfish and violent. When a nation veers from its alignment with the spirit of man, it can become an international criminal. It's a common error to identify spiritually with religion. I'm going to say that again. It's a common error to identify spirituality with religion. We noted previously that the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence clearly differentiate between the spiritual and the religious. The United States government is forbidden to establish any religion, lest it impair the freedom of the people. Yet, these same documents presume that government's authority derives from spiritual principles. In fact, the founders of the world's great religions would be shocked at the profoundly unspiritual deeds wrought in their names through history, many of which would make a heathen shudder. Force always distorts truth for its own self serving purposes. Over time, the spiritual principles upon which religions are based upon become distorted for expedient ends, such as power, money, and other worldliness. The spiritual is tolerant, yet religiosity is commonly intolerant. The former leads to peace, the latter to strife, bloodshed, and pious criminality. There remains, however, buried within every religion the spiritual foundation that it originated from. Like religions, entire cultures are weakened when the principles that they're based upon are obscured or contaminated by false interpretation. To more fully understand the nature of spirit and power and how it originates and operates as a social movement, we'll do well to study a contemporary spiritual organization of enormous power and influence, about which everything is of public record, one that's avowedly aligned with the spirit of man, yet flatly states that it is not religious. That is the 55-year-old organization known as Alcoholics Anonymous, or AA. Next section, the power of 12-step programs. We all know something about Alcoholics Anonymous because its adherents number in the millions, but also because it has become woven into the fabric of modern day society. AA and its offshoot organizations have been estimated to affect, in one way or another, the lives of about 50% of Americans at this time. Even where the 12-step based self-help groups don't enter lives directly, they affect everyone indirectly because they reinforce certain values by example. Let's study the power of principles that AA is based upon and how this foundation came about historically, and examine the impact that these principles have within the general population, as well as among members. We can look at what AA is and also what it is not, and learn from both. According to its preamble, AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, or organization. In addition, it has no opinion on outside matters. It's neither for nor against any other approach to the problem of alcoholism. It has no dues or fees, no ceremonies, trappings, officers, or laws. It owns no property. It has no edifices. Not only are all members equal, but all AA groups are autonomous and self-supporting. Even when the 12 basic steps by which members recover and are specified as only suggestions. The use of coercion of any kind is avoided and is emphasized by slogans such as one day at a time, easy does it, first things first, and most importantly, live and let live. Alcoholics Anonymous respects freedom in that it leaves choice up to the individual. Its identifiable power patterns are those, its identifiable power patterns are those of honesty, responsibility, humility, service, and the practice of tolerance, goodwill, and brotherhood. AA doesn't subscribe to any particular ethic, has no code of right or wrong or good or bad, and avoids moral judgments. AA doesn't try to control anyone, including its own members. What it does instead is chart a path. It merely says to its members, if you practice these principles in all of your affairs, you'll recover from this grave and progressive fatal illness and regain your health and self-respect and the capacity to live a fruitful and fulfilling life for yourself and others. AA is the original example of the power of these principles to cure hopeless disease and change the destructive personality patterns of members. From this paradigm came all subsequent forms of group therapy, through the discovery that groups of people coming together on a formal basis to address their mutual problems have enormous power. Al-Anon for the spouses of AA members, then Alateen for their children, then Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Parents Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, and so on. There are now countless anonymous 12-step self-help organizations dealing with every form of human suffering. Americans, as a result of all of this, have now largely turned from condemning self-destructive behaviors to recognizing that these conditions are indeed curable diseases. From a practical viewpoint, the sizable impact of self-help organizations on society can be counted, not only in the relief of human suffering and the reconstitution of families, but in savings of billions of dollars. Absenteeism, automobile insurance rates, welfare, healthcare, and penal system costs are all greatly moderated by the widespread behavioral change produced by this movement. The cost of state-provided counseling and group therapy alone for the millions of troubled individuals served would be staggering. By the millions, the members of these organizations unanimously agree that admitting the limitations of their individual egos allowed them to experience a true power, and that it's that power that brought about their recovery, which hitherto nothing on earth, including medicine, psychiatry, or any branch of modern science, had been able to do. That is very interesting. That's wow. That's very interesting. Next section, the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. We can make some important observations from the story of how the prototype 12-step organizations, Alcoholics Anonymous, came into existence. Back in the 1930s, alcoholism was accepted, as it had been over the centuries, as hopeless progressive disease, as a hopeless progressive disease that had baffled medical science and religion as well. In fact, the prevalence of alcoholism among the clergy itself was alarmingly high. It's true. It's so very true. All forms of drug addiction were thought to be incurable, and when they reached a certain stage, victims were simply put away. In the early 1930s, a prominent American businessman known to us as Roland H. had sought every cure for his alcoholism without avail. He then went to see the famous Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung for treatment. Jung treated Roland H. for approximately a year, by which time he'd achieved some degree of sobriety. Roland returned to the United States full of hope, only to fall ill again with active alcoholism. Roland went back to Switzerland to see Jung again and asked for further treatment. Jung humbly told him that neither his science nor art could help him further, but that throughout man's history, rarely, but from time to time, some who had abandoned themselves completely to some spiritual organization and surrendered to God for help had recovered. Roland returned to the United States dejected, but he followed Jung's advice and sought out an organization of that time called the Oxford Groups. These were groups of individuals who met regularly to discuss living life according to spiritual principles, very much like those adopted later by AA. Through these means, Roland, in fact, recovered, and his recovery was a source of astonishment to another concerned party named Edwin T., or Ebby, who was also a desperate alcoholic beyond all help. When Roland told Ebby of how he had recovered, Ebby followed suit and also got sober. The pattern of one person helping another with the same problem, then frequently for hopeless, incurable, no, then frequently, my apologies, you all. The sentences are, I'm kind of rolling them together here. The pattern of one person helping another with the same problem then extended from Ebby to his friend Bill W., who had been hospitalized frequently for hopeless, incurable alcoholism and whose condition was medically grave. Ebby told Bill that his recovery was based on service to others, moral house cleaning, and anonymity, my apologies, anonymity, humility, and surrendering to power greater than himself. Bill W. was an atheist and found the idea of surrendering to a higher power unappealing, to say the least. The whole idea of surrender was abhorrent to Bill's pride. Consequently, he sank into an absolute black despair. He had mental obsession with and a physical allergy to alcohol, which condemned him to sickness, insanity, and death, a prognosis that had been clearly spelled out to him and his wife, Lois. Ultimately, Bill gave up completely. At this point, he had the profound experience of an infinite presence and light and felt a great sense of peace. That night, he was finally able to sleep. And when he woke the next day, he felt as though he'd been transformed in some indescribable way. The efficacy of Bill's experience was confirmed by Dr. William D. Silkworth, his physician at what was then Towns Hospital on the west side of New York City. Silkworth had treated more than 10,000 alcoholics and in the process had acquired enough wisdom to recognize the profound importance of Bill's experience. It was he who later introduced Bill to the great psychologist William James's classic book, The Varieties of Religious Experience. Bill wanted to pass his gift on to others, and as he himself said, I spent the next few months trying to sober up drunks, but without success. Eventually, he discovered that it was necessary to convince the subject of the hopelessness of his condition, in modern psychological terms, to overcome his denial. Bill's first success was Dr. Bob, a surgeon from Akron, Ohio, who turned out to have a great aptitude for the spiritual. He later became a co-founder of AA. Until his death in 1956, Dr. Bob never took another drink. Neither did Bill W., who died in 1971. The enormous power that was realized through Bill W.'s experience has manifested itself externally in the millions of lives that have been transformed because of it. In Life's listing of the 100 greatest Americans who ever lived, Bill W. is accredited with being the originator of the entire self-help movement. That's awesome. The story of Bill W. is typical of individuals who have been channels of great power. The principles they convey in a brief career reorder the lives of millions over long periods of time. Jesus Christ, for instance, taught for only 3 short years, and yet his teachings transformed all of the Western society for the generations since. Man's encounter with these teachings lies at the center of Western history for the last 2,000 years. The highest calibration of attractor power fields that we've discovered have invariably been associated with the teachings of the great spiritual masters of history. Forgive my dog. She hears something outside. There's always a diminishment from the calibrated power of energy fields of the great masters' original teachings to their current practice in the form of organized religion. He's saying here to see chapter 23. We'll discover that in a later chapter. Yet the original principles themselves retain their innate power pattern. It's merely their expression that's become weaker. The teachings themselves have the same profound power they always did. Gotcha. The power of the principle remains unchanged throughout time, whether we fully understand them or not. These principles are the ideals for which mankind strives. From our own struggles to better ourselves, We learn compassion for those still in the grip of inner conflict. Out of this grows a wisdom, including compassion for the entire human condition. If we refer to the principles of advanced theoretical physics and the results of our own attractor research, it will be obvious that in a universe in which everything is connected with everything else, unseen power accomplishes things for us that we could never do by ourselves. As we've said before, we can't see electricity, X-rays, or radio waves, but we know of their intrinsic power by virtue of their effects. Similarly, we constantly observe the effects of power in the world of thoughts and feelings, although until now it hadn't been considered possible to measure a thought. When we discuss high power attractor fields, we frequently can allude to them by means of symbols. National flags are just dyed patterns on pieces of material. From a physical viewpoint, but for men are willing to die for what they symbolize. Empowerment, as we've said, comes from meaning. Those things that have the greatest meaning to us arise from the spiritual, not the material world. Thus far, we've seen that alignment with the principles associated with high power attractor field energy fields can result in Olympic achievement, success in commerce, political victory on an international level, and recovery from hopeless progressive diseases. But these same attractor patterns are also responsible for the finest music ever written. They're the basis of eminent religious teachings, the world's grand art and architecture, and the wellspring of all creativity and genius. That's so true. Ooh, that's so true. The power of the power of spirit, period. Tapping into spirit, tapping into a greater peace, tapping into a love, a passion will allow us to transcend to another space where, humanly speaking, we probably can't even describe, to be perfectly honest, because it transcends human thinking. In our human thinking, we're going to try to rationalize it. We're going to try to make it, reasonable. We're going to make it logical, try to make it logical. But even in the scripture, it says that the things of the spirit are foolish to the people of the world, meaning spiritual things cannot be comprehended simply by a human brain. You got to go within in order to understand what's happening and how to tap into those things beyond you. Yes, these individuals, especially speaking of AA, these individuals have illnesses and they have things that they have battled with for some time, depending on who we're speaking of. But this is an illness that has plagued a lot of our people as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Our family itself has dealt with the remnants of this disorder. In fact, my mom's father passed away from alcohol poison. Okay, and I hear stories. He passed when she was 16. I hear stories of how he would get so in a drunken stupor. He would be physical. He would give. It's a lot of things that having, being so drunken can cause. But as they say, a drunken mouth speaks a sober mind. Also, they say they call alcohol spirits. You know what I mean? Because what it does is it goes into, it kind of seeps into and unlocks certain pockets of your inner being. That's why a drunken mouth speaks a sober mind, because it's giving you this quote unquote, it's called liquid courage, to say and be whatever you need to say and be, or however you need to demonstrate in those moments. But then when it wears off, then you have to feel the remnants of it, the aftermath of what just occurred. And that's not palatable often. Okay. So to feel this confidence again, or even to kind of step away from quote unquote reality, people consume again. and consume again. It's a wonder that alcohol in and of itself has not been made illegal, because that's what's habit forming. Alcohol, cigarettes, habit forming, but also cause death. Alcohol causes death in large consumption. That yes, it can damage you, your liver, all of that stuff, kidney, everything. Cigarettes destroy your lungs, causes death, cancer, all of that stuff. And yet it is still a consumable. It's still a consumable. But then you have THC, which is land grown, right? And not habit forming, not at all. And it's medicinal, helps the body, helps a lot of different things. Pain, natural pain reliever, helps with clarity, helps with sleep, helps with eating and appetites, building an appetite, helps to calm, relax. Yeah. Nature always has answers and solutions, right? But that is illegal. Well, in some places now, it took forever to get it legalized, and some states are still not even convinced. You know why? Because they're trying to see how can we make a profit. That's why cigarettes and alcohol is so readily available. How can we make a profit? Cigarettes, you can be 18 years old and purchase a pack of cigarettes. 21 for alcohol. And if you're like me, we all consume before our legal age. Absolutely. You know. Um yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Spirit. Because in order to even get to those states of, debilitated thinking and feeling and stuff like that, in order for it to overpower you, it has to get to your spiritual self. It has to get to your spiritual self. These things are not named this stuff for no reason at all. But the irony is, in order to recover, you have to go into your spiritual self. That's the irony. That is the irony. Wow. This is awesome. This understanding is mind blowing. And then the concept of the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. Absolutely. There is no separatism there. Everybody's on the same accord. Everybody's the same. There's no judgment. And what he's saying here is that we should really take a page out of the books of those organizations, because they have resulted in a lot of great work. They really have. They really have. Something that religion, I really do believe, can learn from. Honestly, he says, it has no dues, no fees, no ceremonies, trappings, no officers, no we're up here and you all are down there, and no laws. It owns no properties. There is no claims to this, and it has no edifices. Members are equal. Autonomy is there. Self-support is there. You know, there's no preamble. They're not connected or allied with any denomination, any political party, any organizations, any whatever the case, none of that. And yet they get the job done. They get the job done. He stated here, he was like, listen, Constitution, all of that stuff, all of those things, absolutely based on spiritual matters, a spiritual foundation in its origination, in its original form. But since the original construction of certain things like the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, all of those things, since their formation, there has a lot of things have occurred. Religion has gotten a hold to it. Cultures have gotten a hold to it. And they have weakened the principles that they were originally based on. They have taken and they have blurred and obscured and contaminated the original focus by false interpretation, because they've changed it to benefit their own personal gain and not kept it raw in its original form, which made it for the people, by the people, of the people. Okay. He's talking about getting to the spirit of the things, remaining at the helm of the spirit of a thing, not removing the spirit out of the things. Because when we remove spirit, the essence of that which is, is meant to occur, the essence of that whole, the whole order of it, the essence of the love, the peace, the compassion of the essence of that thing. When you remove that essence, it has no life. It has no life. And so a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with, that we're living in, social constructs and rules, regulations, governments and laws and the spirit has long been removed. The essence of them has long been removed. And it has long lost its life. And those who were in it, the political cabinets and the officers and things like that, when they entered into politics, I can guarantee you they entered into it with a mind and a heart to help the communities, to help the people, to be the voice for the voiceless, right? They went in with a huge loving kindness for all. They rolled up their sleeves and they would be out feeding the communities. They would be out clothing, the naked. They would be out, speaking at schools. They would be out canvassing the ground, really going into and caring for the people. And then they got their title. And then they got their power. And then they got comfortable. They got popularity. And they forgot their original spirit, the original essence at which they pushed towards that role in the first place. They forgot it. And then it became about how much more power, how much more money, how much more popularity can I have versus what other solution can I bring to the people? That's what we're dealing with right now. All over the world, not just in the US, all over the world, the essence, the spirit has been removed. Question is, how do we get it back? How do we get it back? And I believe that we get it back by each one of us individually realigning with that which we are, which is our essence. Realigning with our true selves. Not what society is saying, not what's popular, not all of that other stuff that we so get caught up in. But reconnecting to our true essence, knowing who we are before influence, before other things the world imprinted on us. Who were we? Who are we? Because under all of these layers that we have added on to our lives, these personas, these things, under all of that, your true essence still remains. You just got to sift through the stuff, the stuff that is not you, the inauthentic portions of yourself, of ourselves. Get to that. It's hard. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable at all, but it's necessary. It is very much so necessary because too often we're walking around here, oh my goodness, mummies, lifeless, on autopilot, routine after routine, tradition after tradition, no essence, no spirit, no life. Just going about, same thing day in, day out, same show day in, day out, same focus day in, day out. No essence, no life, zombies, no essence, no life, no spirit. Return to the spirit of us. Return to the spirit of yourself. Return to your essence individually. And then when we individually reconnect with self, collectively, our whole vibration raises. Our frequencies collectively will raise because we individually did the work and returned to our spirit, return to the essence of us. Yeah, that's awesome. Alrighty, you all. That's the chapter. That is chapter 13. On Tuesday, we're going to be going into chapter 14, which is entitled Power in the Arts. Power in the Arts. I love that. I'm a creative to my core. Always have been, always will be. And I'm excited to hear about that for sure, for sure. We're in the middle of the book, but you can still obtain your copy if you desire. Okay, to receive an ebook of our reading material, inbox me with your email address and I'll send it over to you. You can feel free to sow a love seed to our organization because, it does cost to do what I do. And we would love your support and your essence, your energy in the collective with us. Okay. If you want to send me an email, feel free to do so. And info@biancamissblee.com. You can visit my website at biancamissblee.com. Okay. Follow me on social media as well, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee. Also on LinkedIn. Again, we're airing live on LinkedIn as well. So same thing all over the place. Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee. With the exception of Twitter, X. It's just Bianca Miss B. Lee, no doctor. Okay. Alrighty, you all listen. That is it for today. I'm going to return you back to your Sunday. I love you. I mean it. There's absolutely, positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try it. We'll see you back here on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at Divine Femininity United. Peace.